let's get Jaideep Ghosh, partner KPMG, into this conversation. Jaideep, data operators like Bharti and Idea were aware of this fact for many years that this low-cost economics of Skype, etc., will be hitting their revenues. It's not a new phenomenon. So why did Bharti choose to do this right now? Do you think it's because of the fact that WhatsApp will be foraying into internet calls very soon?
See, I think, as you said rightly, these things are not particularly new. So this is known. So my view overall is that, the telecom operators needs to be relevant and align their business models in tune with the reality and what's happening and what's going to happen. So increasing rates for VoIP kind of calls may be a short-term measure, but then customers will find other ways to mitigate that and still continue doing that. But that's how the world is at this point of time. So I would think that, not something which I would think as a very, very long-term productive measure for any telecom operator in India to kind of differentially price
But if the telecom industry is really facing the threat of commoditization because of technology, do you see other operators following suit?
No, that's a very standard question. I don't even want to go there. Why is it that? I mean, why telecom operators facing threat is known since we are discussing this now. It's already known. So they need to align their business models. See, there is a concept of net neutrality. Okay, even in the US now, President Obama is personally very, very pro net neutrality. What does it mean? It means net neutrality means that all the websites, all content needs to have equal access, both in terms of unblocking, nothing needs to be unblocked, needs to have equal speed of access and needs to have equal cost of access. So both in terms of access, cost and speed, all websites, all content need to have equal listing. That's the net neutrality principle. This kind of differential packaging clearly is not very, very pro net neutrality.
Yeah, but is it anti? Is it against the law? Because net neutrality is accepted, but is not the law. So is this against the law? And do you see governments now stepping in and making a net neutrality kind of obligatory for all players?
So you answered it. It's not a loss. There's nothing, nothing illegal, if I may say so, in doing this. Absolutely a commercial packaging of VoIP calls and stuff like that, which is fine. Nothing to do with law. But I think sooner than later, the TRAI would step into this. There's already a consultation paper on the over-the-top OTT applications, and we potentially would see the TRAI getting slightly more active in these things if things they think that it's going net neutrality. That's what I would think. This is my personal opinion.
So when you say slightly more active, what do you mean? Because this move does not come without precedence. If we look at what's happening in the US, I understand that the AT&T customers cannot make VoIP calls on their iPhone using their cellular data. So it's not the first time that it's happening in India. What do you think the regulator will do at this juncture now? Because as you said, this move directly violates the principle of net neutrality.
See, in the US also there are several lobbies. One is, of course, from a political and government standpoint, I think President Obama is clearly pro, and some part of the Republicans are not very pro net neutrality. Even in the operator, and an operator does not only mean AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, and a few others. But if there's an entire association which includes Facebook, Google, Amazon, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., they have submitted exactly opposing memorandum to FCC, Federal Commission, urging them to ban net neutrality. Let's remember, Google also operates Google Fiber, which is a access provider. In their own Google Fiber, they don't have any differentiation, that they don't prefer Google or Google-related traffic, YouTube, etc., higher speed. So they maintain complete neutral stance on their own access in the US. So I think there are at least two lobbies, two main lobbies in the US also. And here also, I don't know what's going to happen. Typically in India, when one telecom operator does that, mostly others tend to follow. But here, as I think Rima was saying, it opens up, some one or two operators may choose not to do it, and then may use that as a competitive ploy to get additional customers, relevant customers who want to use this kind of services.
Jaideep, so sorry, would you overall term this move regressive? Is it a regressive move by Bharti Airtel in order to meet, the changing dynamics of technology?
Yes, this will not. I'm not critical of only Bharti Airtel, so don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying this is a very short-term measure, to kind of increase the price for this kind of services. So I think the long-term option should be to see how their business models can align. So already see operators like Telefonica or others, Vodafone, AT&T, they are seeing how can they have partnership with some of these applications and services and get into the business themselves rather than acting as, in your words, Rima, acting as a dumb pipe, etc. It's not something I'm using, but just providing access to customers has a limited value now. But that's why SMS
do you think this could be, Jaideep, a bargaining move by Airtel as a prelude before making an approach to people like Skype and others, saying that now let's talk?
Could be. I don't really know, but definitely such partnerships can. Airtel is a prominent operator. A larger market share in most markets. I think they could have their talks and all without such bargaining tactics also.
I think Bharti has also introduced a similar. They're planning to, or they have already introduced, a voice calling facility which is very similar to Skype.
Which one?
Bharti.
Yeah.
Jaideep, do you have any numbers or any number crunching that you've done on how much these network operators have actually lost so far to some of these OTT players, and now what could the difference be?
No, in fact, I had done it some time back, and I think on your channel, but I just don't have it on top of my mind now. But it was reasonably, reasonable amount what they were losing on SMS. That I don't remember it right now, actually.
Jaideep, now as you said, it's technology very, very difficult to kind of, in a sense, censor or differentiate. So, what are the? Have you done a study or thought about what customers will possibly do to skirt this move?
See, customers are always very, intelligent, especially customers who use these kind of, Skype and WhatsApp and Viber. So I'm sure they will, at this point of time, other operators have not announced any such plans. I understand they may, think about it. I think they will always find out some telecom operator or other channels through, the internet to continue using these, lower cost calls and all that.
Okay. Just one longer or rather a medium-term question, Jaideep, since you analyze the sector so closely. There's a big wave of these OTT services. If you look at healthcare services, billing apps, shopping apps, all of that. In the near future, how do you see the telecom industry? How do you see these operators compete with each other or compete with some of these OTT services? Do you see margins get crunched further because of what's happening?
Yes, I think the telecom industry, when we speak about that, typically we tend to limit our discussions to telecom operators. But that scenario has changed, not now, maybe 10 years back. Now everybody, all the apps, and all the infra players and the equipment companies, everybody has, some part of wants to play in additional value chains beyond their core area. So I think the short answer is that the operators, are already doing that and need to increasingly move from just providing the last mile access and the fiber and the, copper and get into these, this OTT and the software part of the business to retain their value. Otherwise, every time they have to increase price for a short-term period to kind of retain their value, which is not a very sustainable long-term strategy, especially in the Indian market.
All right, Jaideep, we'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining us.